So, welcome to another episode of Price Targets with your host, Bitcoin Jack. It's been 2 weeks almost, I think. We're going to talk about Bitcoin. We're going to talk about how I hope this is the start of, some actual progression. We've been pretty fucked by this PPI print. I really was convinced that Bitcoin was going to, start a larger serious rally. Then the PPI print came, and obviously either insiders knew or it was just the structure here, but this sweep happened before the PPI print. Real shame, to be honest, but that's the way things go, and you can't win them all. I did two recordings earlier, and for some reason the recording software froze the screen, and I had to redo it. So there's already some drawings on the charts. I wanted to start with a fresh chart to highlight some, fresh IDs, and I'll just try to go through the same things I spoke about in the two earlier recordings, and hopefully this one actually sticks. But first of all, I want your attention for Backpack. It's been a true blast trading on Backpack, and this upcoming airdrop is going to be insane. I really think that, the points that we're gathering, a point might actually really, be valued at maybe like $1 or $2, meaning that top contenders, if you like diamond or challenger tier, you're up. You could be looking at a 6-figure airdrop, and anyone attacking me for using Backpack or shilling Backpack, jokes on you, because they've been upgrading their systems and adding new functionality, and truly it's a one shop fits all kind of place where you can go off chain, borrow on the chain, and go borrow on the exchange and go off, go on the chain and do stuff on the chain. You can there's a super incredible lending mechanism and machine underneath it that you can like have automatically lend and borrow on your margin and cross margin plays. So I think it's really cool. There's been a few moments of downtime, and obviously I hope they will kind of resolve that stability, and over time, gain our trust to move more assets into Backpack. And yeah, really big shout out to Armani. They've been really trying their best to really become one of the best exchanges out there. And if they continue on this path, I really truly believe that they will achieve it. So, without further ado, Backpack and Bitcoin. I think, and that's the first thing I want to say. A lot of people are looking at this as if this might actually become a deviation, meaning that this is a range. I don't think that we should care about these highs at all anymore. They're in the past. They might be worth something sometime in the future, but for now, this is the consolidation that we need to work with. And if Bitcoin's been doing anything recently, it's essentially, just checking prior levels. For example, here, well, and obviously now here. It's checked it twice, so, this is a check, this is a check, this is a check, this is a check. Technically, it's done all the checks. Even here, check, check. Might it go do a third check? Absolutely. Does that, put price in this zone? Around like 109 to 110? It could be. But the thing to consider is last week's kind of dovish Powell speech, Jackson Hole. The market's been telling us that a September rate cut was a lock for the last 2 months, at least for the last month. Even when the hot PPI print hit, around, in this candle here, the market really didn't stop pricing in a rate cut in September. So the rate cut remained the lock, and I'll show you. You can look this up yourself. Set Q or the federal funds rates futures in 30 days time. And if we grab the October one, really didn't budge much. The expected rate that is being priced in is 4.1. Currently, the Fed funds is, all right, switch to the monthly, 4.33. So it's in the range from 4.25 to 4.5, and 4.11 is in the range 4 to 4.25. That means a cut. I think that's a lock. The question is whether we're going to get more locks, more cuts. And the other question is, why do we get more cuts? Is it because inflation is lower? Well, that expectation is kind of out of the window with the hot PPI print. It might be just a random PPI print that gets revised down, and it might just be an out of trend occasion. And in that instance, it's gonna be even more reason to cut, because the labor market is obviously struggling with the revisions of the labor, with the revisions of the labor market. So, if we look at the fact that this rally was on the pretty much the lock of the cuts because of the deteriorating labor market due to the revisions of the labor market, and this was the hot PPI print, and now Jerome Powell basically said, well, we're gonna, he basically confirmed that they're gonna cut in September, and that the bigger question and theme was around what's gonna happen in the other remaining FOMC windows later this year. The one thing you don't really want to see is this fully retrace back to the lows. In that instance, I fully expect that, we're going back into this range. I won't be interested in being long at all until it gets reclaimed or we start smashing levels below, right? So huge level down here, and then there's 2 levels down here. We'll get to that if we see any confirmation in this week that's where we're going to be trading. But for now, we had a huge bullish reversal candle. Generally, people are bidders below the 0.5 or starting from the 0.5. There is the daily candle, the bearish candle here that got reversed. So that's that's the order block that we're interested in. Maybe you can put it up to include the wick, up to you. But around this area is where we should see support coming in for Bitcoin. And for now, it's holding. Let's wait and see for tonight. I think in this scenario, we still have the opportunity to trade at least 236, 144, and 180 is still on the table, in my opinion. We're still progressing very slowly here, and we've not seen any real acceleration in this cycle. In my opinion, at some point in this cycle, we need to start going towards the orange line, and that's where the parabolic phase of the bull market starts. There's no market cycle top, in my opinion, before that happens. That doesn't mean we can't have downside, but my bias is going to be to be aggressive about trading and entering pullbacks, and target ridiculous targets that seem ridiculous, but really they aren't. The minute markets cross the yellow line, Bitcoin crosses the yellow line, it's always been the start of the parabolic phase. And it's happened here, it's happened here, it's happened here. And now we're just, in a extended kind of low volatility period, waiting for that to happen. I don't think anything changes. Anyone saying that Bitcoin is not going parabolic anymore, in my opinion, is a fool. And I don't mind, that we have a different opinion, but every cycle, Bitcoin upgrades to target a different tranche of wealth, a different, league of wealth. And this time we're in the big leagues, like the super big leagues, like global money leagues. So if we're going to see cuts into, because, labor market is softening up, but inflation is still high and they're softening up into that. It's a very different context compared to, for example, back in 21, where we started rate hikes, and everything was way too fluffy. We've not been there yet. They're not gonna hike. They're gonna cut. We're we're essentially somewhere here with more cuts to come, or somewhere here with more cuts to come. Labor market is more important than inflation. They're gonna let go of the 2% inflation goal, not for real, like not as a goal itself, but if labor is too, gets too weak, it's just going to be less of a priority for a short period of time. So essentially, they're just going to let things fly, in my opinion, until they realize inflation is a problem, and then we're going to see these weird market dynamics where prices are gonna rally but then fall really hard into some kind of event. That's still my expectation. It's scenario 2, that I talked about on Twitter. The current situation on, for example, ES, let's see, is that where, my expectation of 6900 still stands. 6900 before, like, around the next FOMC, which is like mid-September. It's really not that crazy. It's 6% away, and we've seen several, 2 weeks where we've seen 6 to 10% rallies. See, so really not a crazy idea to target that, and before we see any kind of shenanigans. And if these were the shenanigans, then it's even more bullish, because I really expected August or September to have an event that's gonna see a giant pullback in markets, like a giant headwind. If this was all of it, then it's just gonna be crazy. So I still think we have some shit to worry about within the near future, right? Within the next 3 to 4 weeks, to see like a sell-off occur that's not going to be funny, and in my opinion, it's going to be from higher, and we're not at the point yet where we're fucked. But I don't, like, look, I can be wrong, honestly. I'm just telling you the reasons why I'm willing to take the long side of this market. It's a bet as much as it is yours, and I do see the pressures in the market. I've been talking about it for months, that I expect something to occur relatively soon. So I don't know. That being said, ETH, there is a really, 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 really nice setup. It needs to hold for 70.50, basically where it's trading now. for me to be bullish and target 5,500. If not, if we're losing the 40, 47, 42 area, then I'm pretty sure that we're going to see 45, 45, potentially 43, 50. But as long as this weekend and tomorrow can kind of hold the 47, 40 level, and we see this coil up here, market's bullish. Okay. Then target is 5,500, 6,800, 69, just for the shits, right? Like that. First target. So how do we measure that? We're gonna take this one, put it on top of here, make basically double this range. That gives us our 55 target, right? 55, 20, 55, 55, something around that range. And we're gonna have another target around 6,000. ETH, BTC, however, is really coming into what I would expect to be a major point of resistance. I basically said from 365, 355 to 420 is where I'd let go of any thinking that market's stronger. That could also be completely wrong, but I've been bullish on it from the bottom, so I think I need to be careful not to get overextended on ETH. Link, super cool. Link is really, 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 really looking good. I hope we can actually see a situation where we're finally going to raid some lows, because these lows have been protected. It would be nice to, this would be my dream scenario, to retest the highs from August, early August, around 22, 23, and then have this kind of confirmed Livermore cylinder into the 38 that we talked about in many of the videos before. 28 was the other level target. Just barely reached it. Like, not really, but it almost hit it. I think sweeping these two lows into 22 to 23 would be a great opportunity to get long, and then target 38. And obviously, my invalidation would be below 20, like below the levels here. There's no way, in my opinion, unless things are really bearish, that it should be able to rate 1, 2, 3, 4 fucking lows, right? So this is a pretty fucking nice trade if we get it, right? That's huge. Bum, 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 bum. Yeah, I don't even want to talk about Aave because I kind of like let it go and then it pumped without me, obviously, because that always happens. But I do need to talk about it because I think there's some spectacular upside. This is a full, nice, rounded fucking thing. Giant consolidation here. There's two scenarios for me that would work. The most likely one in the near term is to be a bit around like 323 to 3, to 350 to 340, and target around 580 and 680 as an extension of this kind of pullback. All right, so large larger time frame target 580 would be incredible. Maybe 680. The other scenario that I like less is where this kind of trades back down here. I would really love for this high to hold. So for now, that's really where I'd like to see it. But then if that fails, the second place to bid would be this box down here. And then I would probably target just the highs around 400. Solana is not doing so bad, but look, if we, and I lost the chart, I'll have to find it back for next week, but truly what we're just doing, as I predicted, as I've drawn a few times, is just a consolidation. I think larger trend is that Solana is still, set up to lose against Bitcoin and against ETH. So not really ready yet for Solana. Last couple of times Solana ran really hard, it was generally a signal that the broader market was going to see a pullback. So it was like just, late mini cycle rotations into Solana, and then everything sold off again. So would really not like to see that. Gold, I really want to go to gold because I think there's a super nice trade to be had here. We spoke about it on Twitter, essentially saying that 3245 is like kind of the invalidation, and then we had the entry around 3300, and it pumped here. Invalidation remains the same, 3244 target, and I'll show you the conservative target. Is measuring from the low here to the high here, and put the 3.8, the 0.382 up here, and then we target somewhere around 3730, 3750. That's a good trade in my opinion, with the expectation of rate cuts, with the expectation of the dollar doing badly. This is really one to kind of, it makes a lot of sense. We spoke about ES already. We spoke about Aave, Link, ETH. We spoke about that. Oh yes, so SPX 6900. We had our exit many weeks ago around 185, and I haven't really touched it since. Haven't really talked about it since. But now market is kind of shaping up for at least a potential entry. If the broader Bitcoin market is going to do fine, we have two levels of interest here. You can see we've tapped at 0.786, so that's generally, in my opinion, a really good place to start longing after the 5 for a bounce. And then I think there's no invalidation unless this goes below 90 cents. So another level to bid is 0.08. And then to the upside, I think let's assume that this was the bottom. It may not be, but I think that on a conservative basis, you could get to 2.92 using the 0.382 as an extension. And otherwise, you're going to use the 0.5, which puts you just above 3.33. We've used this method during this cycle here as well. I think this looks very promising if the broader Bitcoin market is going to look fine. And honestly, if they're going to cut and there's going to be stupid money around again, that makes a lot of sense, right? People asking where the liquidity is going to come from. Well, if you're going to cut rates, obviously there's going to people are going to be able to refinance their houses. Banks are getting some air because the treasuries revalue to better valuations. So really nice one, in my opinion, to consider. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about was TRX. It's a kind of stupid chart. We spoke about it. We said Tron season, and then it really didn't do much, but it started to move a little bit. And if we consider this chart essentially two levels of resistance, right? It's at one level of resistance right now. Breaking it essentially put it at 460 last few times. And if it's not going to have a reaction like it did here and it did here, then the next logical resistance is 668 or like 666, being the bottom of this weekly candle here before it started to sell off. So it's kind of scary to buy the resistance here, but I'm willing to do it. This is the big canary in the coal mine. We spoke about how if this starts to reprice from the 0.5, the 1.5 towards 2, because that's probably where they're gonna put in the next line in the sand. That's problematic, because essentially what I feel is that this could be the canary in the coal mine for the September fucking shit, where the Fed is actually forced to step into the market as Japan is putting pressure on US treasuries. Because this whole fucking basis trade thing already kind of blew up, but there's still shit left to unwind. And it involves US treasuries to be sold. So it's almost at the point where I believe that they must collaborate, and they've done it in the past. So if this is going to creep higher, there is definitely a reason for the Fed to do some market intervention. Is it going to happen this week, next week, September? People have been worried about it for quite some time because it's been at this level since March, right? So wouldn't be surprised if there's like a few weeks left before this starts to reprice. And if the Fed starts to cut more aggressively, it might actually prevent this from happening. So I don't know which one is going to happen first, which one is going to trigger each other, but definitely one to watch, because this is where the pain comes in my opinion. At least short term, this could definitely cause a sell-off in equities and Bitcoin, just simply because of the need for liquidity. So the reason and the reaction to that should be to buy that sell-off, but you don't want to be standing in front of that train. So I definitely watched that one. And I think that was pretty much it. It was 28 minutes. This is pretty much me recording for 2 hours almost, because of somehow the recording stuff failing. If you enjoyed this, please consider joining Backpack. If you use a mat-led NFT in your Backpack account, you're going to get a bump to VIP tier 1 trading fees. And if you use my referral link, you're going to get a 20% discount on your fees on top, which gets deposited into your account each week. So essentially you pay the normal price on fees, but then you get them back through the referral system. I put it at 20%, which is, you're not going to get it anywhere else. So it's really the best deal out there. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll catch you next week. Cheers.